back again, another Furio Watchers video. This one all about some of the amazing hip hop samples using pianos. There's been some amazing tracks sampling pianos over the years. This is just showing off some of my favourite ones. Some of these samples as well have been quite manipulated, either chopped up, slowed down, manipulated in some way to disguise the original samples. Reminder again, 5 years since I dropped my very first album on Bandcamp, so to celebrate that I'm giving it away for free at the moment. There's a link in description, so go ahead, download it. I've got 6 albums out in total, so you can have a check of the others as well whilst you're on there. So let's jump in, let's see what the first sample is. Fabolous Monk and John Coltrane, 2 hugely respected jazz musicians, done a massive amount of music and have been sampled quite a lot as well. This is one of those samples that was that obscure, it's only very recently been discovered. So 30 years after that Wu-Tang album came out, till people are actually managing to find the original sample. So it shows how well Riz has produced that no one's discovered it for that length of time. Great chop on the sample as well. Just changed the pitch on it, chopped it, flipped it into a really great track on Wu-Tang's first album. Let's see what the next track is. That is one of the best sample flips ever. So well disguised, that particular sample. The credits on the Mobb Deep track show it produced by Mobb Deep, but it was Havoc that actually did that particular beat. The infamous album didn't come out until '95, but that Shook Ones Part 2 was released as a 12-inch in '94. Such a great track, that one, and really good use of that particular sample, how he slowed it down like crazy and just flipped it into an amazing hip hop beat.
Oh, but not a whole nigga, ain't scared of no nigga. When it's my turn to go, I gotta go, and I'm going with the storm.
Ahmad Jamal, another legendary jazz musician. Sadly lost him earlier this year. He has been sampled a huge amount of times, especially on Nas Illmatic album. Common, or Common Sense as he was originally known, had to actually change his name because there was a dispute over copyright of that name with a reggae group called Common Sense. So he had to change his name just to Common after that. So you'll actually see reissues of that album. Originally said Common Sense on it, reissues just say Common. Really great track, that one. Produced by No ID, and it was his first production credit with Common. First hip hop that No ID produced. So let's see the next track.
Come on y'all, get live, get down. Common sense is in your town. I said come on y'all, get live, get down.
David Axelrod, another musician that has been heavily sampled in hip-hop, and this is just one of many of his tracks that have been used. Produced by Large Professor, one of my favourite producers. The drums on that remix, just such a head-nodding beat. Really adds to it. Great track. Original and the remix, I think, are both really good tracks.
You weren't perfect, but you made life worth it. Stick around, some real feelings might surface.
Sample there from Aphex Twin. Aphex Twin is actually just one person, Irish guy called Richard James. Now look up an interview with Richard James, because he absolutely slates Kanye for his use of that sample. Although it's been replayed, he says in this interview that Kanye just tried to take the sample, not compensate him, was really rude in any communications, and allegedly said, "It's ours, not yours." Not really good for a multi-millionaire musician, but it's probably not the worst thing Kanye's done in recent times. Either way, turned into a pretty good track on Kanye's album, although one of the producers, DJ Frank E, I'm not impressed with his sample credits. If you look at some of the tracks he's produced, Justin Bieber, Flow Rider, Enrique Iglesias, yeah, not someone that I'll be looking up anytime soon. Anyway, let's see what the next track is.
That's just the way it is. I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? I'm tired of being poor and even worse. Come on.
That's just the way it is.
Bruce Hornsby and the Range. That was actually their very first single that they put out as a group. Sampled by Tupac, produced by Tupac, came out after Tupac had passed away. Came out in '98, that one. Obviously replayed, it's not a direct sample, it's playing the same melody, very similar lyrics to the original, but yeah, not a direct sample off that original. Very big track, probably one of the most famous Tupac tracks, that one. Let's see what's next up. Another great example there of how Havoc has totally gone to work yet again with another piano sample. Not just slowed it down like mad to 2 different levels, pitched it way down and just flipped that into a really great hip hop track. On one of my other videos where I'm showing samples on my MPC, I've given a full breakdown of that track and Shook Ones Part 2 as well as some others. If that's of interest, give that a check as well.
I grew up on the crime side, the New York Times side. Staying alive was no job.
The Charmels, they only actually put out 4 singles working with Isaac Hayes. Straight up loop, that one, unlike some of the more disguised and chopped samples that Riz is known for. But such an iconic track, that one. Cream by Wu-Tang. Probably their most famous track. If anyone has to name a track by Wu-Tang, it's likely to be Cream.
The road ain't yellow and it ain't no witches. My name is Kool G Rap, I'm on the road to the riches.
Billy Joel, over 50 albums to his name. Kool G Rap, DJ Polo, they did 3 albums together, went their separate ways. DJ Polo put 1 album out of his own, and then he's not done anything else since then. Kool G Rap, done lots and lots of solo work, still going now. I think his last album came out last year. So yeah, he's still really going strong. Let's see what the next track is.
when I come through, hum to some shoes. Gotta be 20, man, it's not even funny, they can't.
Supertramp, formed in London in the late 60s, they've done well over 40 albums. The Fabolous track, produced by Just Blaze. He's done some really good tracks in his time, Just Blaze. This one, pretty straightforward chop on that piano, but it works really well with the track. Yeah, great track.
The Black Moses, literature on pure dosage from the landscape of Kuwait, Jakes and Vultures. Too many of us lose focus due to the fact that
Bette Midler there, with a sample taken off her very first album. She shares the same birthday as me. Obviously not the same year, because she's nearly 80. But yeah, 1st of December. Capone-N-Noreage track, produced by Easy LP. He's produced some pretty big tracks himself. Get Money by Junior Mafia. Uchiwale, QB Finest. He's worked a lot with Capone-N-Noreage, Prodigy of Mobb Deep, various tracks that he's produced. So let's see what the next one is.
Get by, just to get by, just to get by, just to get by. We commute to computer, spirits stay mute while your ego spread rumors.
Nina Simone, absolute legend. She started off very young playing piano in a local church, so music's been part of her life since being very young. Talib Kweli track, produced by Kanye West. Kanye has produced some really good tracks for other people, as well as producing for himself. Yeah, real standout track, that Talib Kweli one. David Axelrod again there. Such a great track that by DJ Shadow. He's taken 4 single piano notes, added a great beat, some vocal samples, and just made that into such an iconic hip hop track. Classic 90s hip hop, that one, definitely. Let's see what's next up.
Whose world is this?
the world is yours, the world is yours.
It's mine, whose world is this?
So I mentioned earlier on about Ahmad Jamal being sampled on Nas's debut album, Illmatic. There's the perfect example. Such a great track, that, produced by the legend Pete Rock. That album has really stood the test of time. So many great producers working on that Illmatic album, and that's just one of many examples of great tracks.
Every day has been the same old thing on my block. You either working or you're slanging cocaine on my block.
Another great sample there, been used a few times. M.O.P used it first back in '96 on their track World Famous. They actually use exactly the same part of the sample as well, that piano part. Both great tracks. Producer there, Nasheem Myrick. In the groups The Hitmen, worked with Biggie, Lil Kim, P Diddy or Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, whatever you want to call him, as well as obviously Scarface on that track.
All the world needs love, sweet love. All
I'm internationally known
When I be on the mic.
The Artistics, soul group from Chicago, put a few albums out from late 60s, early 70s, but then did nothing else after that. What Primo has done with that sample is just amazing. That is chopped so well, completely flipped it to sound nothing like the original. Really great track, that, working with Rakim on his second solo album. Let's see what the next one is.
Rappers are monkey flipping with the funky rhythm I be kicking. Musician, inflicting composition of pain. I'm like Scarface sniffing cocaine.
Joe Chambers. As far as I'm aware, that's the only track of his that's been sampled. He's put quite a few albums out, so I think I need to have a dig through some of those other albums and see what else is on there. See if we can find something good to make a hip hop track with. Another track off Nas's debut album, again working with Primo. Really great track, that one. Definitely one of the standout cuts from that first album of his.
Yeah, I bet you know I left you hanging. Yeah.
Gospel sample there, often overlooked, but you can really get some great samples from gospel albums. I've sampled them a few times, and on one of my recent albums I've used a gospel track. The Fat Joe track there, off his third solo album, I think that piano sample works really well with that track. For me though, I still prefer his first two albums.
Diamonds are forever like family and loyalty, or real rap songs like Cream or my melody. Diamonds are forever like my infinite thought.
Great Gangstar track there, one that cost Primo a lot of money. He had to buy the acapellas of Guru's Voice that were owned by Solar. Long running beef between those two, but eventually Primo did manage to buy those acapellas and create all these brand new beats for that final Gangstar album. There's some real great tracks on that album, and I'm so glad that it did finally get released. Handsome Boy Modelling School, featuring Roisin Murphy on vocals. She was actually the best friend of my brother growing up, and a funny thing is, they were in a band together years ago, and she got kicked out of the band because they said she couldn't sing. Boy, they were wrong. She's had quite a lot of success since then. She was in a group called Moloko. He had a couple of big hits. I think one of them got to #2 in the charts in the UK. That track also features J Live rhyming on another verse of it. Great track there from the 90s. Let's see what's next up.
Your mind, I got the right nutrition. We keep shit hard like fat asses in cases of Heineken. Here in Brooklyn, home of the warrior and villain.
Another track produced by Primo. Although this is just a straight up loop, I absolutely love this track. It really is one of my favourite tracks from the 90s. I think it works so well, and I just like the whole track. It's got so many different great MCs on it.
I'm still not a player, but you still a hater. Elevator to the top, high. See you later.
Brenda Russell sample there off her first album. The Big Pun track as well was also his first album. Latino rapper, was down with Fat Joe, passed away young, aged 28 from a heart attack. They said it was caused by his weight. They didn't call him Big Pun for no reason. He was big guy. Fat Joe was obviously very big as well. Look at him now, he has lost a huge amount of weight. So, let's see what the next track is.
Brooklyn, now I'm down in Tribeca, right next to the Narrow, but I'll be hood forever. I'm the new Sinatra, and since I made it here, I can make...
A lot of people are surprised when they hear that one, because they don't realise it was actually a sample. Obviously Alicia Keys is known as a classically trained pianist, so they just assumed that she has written that herself and she's played that. But no, definitely a sample from that one. Great track, Alicia Keys with Jay-Z. Yeah, works really well, that one.
You're in the mood, just go with the flow, and I can play rapping records and all disco, like Beat It Billie Jean.
Isaac Hayes, another legendary musician, been sampled hundreds of times in hip hop tracks. Biz Markie track as well, classic 80s. produced by Marley Marl, who produced some of the biggest hits of the 80s in hip hop. Really great track, that one. Yeah, real classic 80s track.
I got a letter from the government the other day. I opened and read it. It said they were suckers. They wanted me for their army or whatever.
Another Isaac Hayes track. This one has been sampled quite a lot of times as well. Quite a few different people have used that. I think there was about 3 people in 1988 that all used it in hip hop as well. Public Enemy, just great group. Chuck D is the frontman. Still going today. Still coming up with great music, been in the game a long time now. So let's see what the next track is.
Hey, he wants to get his girlfriend. Go get your girlfriend. Listen, they'll be mashed.
Another sample from Galt McDermott. Great use of that by Dilla. That Donuts album is just a masterpiece in sampling. The amount of layers and chopping that he's done on some of those samples on that album. Absolutely amazing. Very sad what happened to him. Passed away way too young. But he was just a machine at making beats. He was meant to make a beat a day, which is why there's so many unreleased tapes of his, beat tapes that have come out. Look them up on YouTube if you're not already, the J Dilla beat tapes. Some really good stuff on there that never got released. Paul Hart there with Jaywalking. My last video, there was quite a lot of library music samples in there. This is another one off one of those library music records that were designed for use in film, TV and radio productions. This particular album was on Bruton Music. They released quite a lot of those types of albums. Another great primo beat there. Really chopped that piano up, flipped it into that great track by M.O.P.
Catch those on the block with krills. Now it's paid shows, promoters post up bills, sign deals only if the math is real.
Jack Mayborn sample, that is another one off one of those library music records. Flipped by The Alchemist. He actually also used exactly the same sample on an unreleased version of a Dilated Peoples album. There was a promo of Neighborhood Watch Out. Completely different music on it. Lots of vocal samples on it. Taken from the film Heat with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino in it. Look that up, see if you can find it, because it's well worth having a listen to that.
They call me Nas, I'm not your legal type of fella. My wet drinking, marijuana smoking street dweller who's always on the corner, rolling up blessed.
Lee Irwin, Thief of Baghdad. Album that didn't come out till the 70s, a compilation album of music for silent movies. So the track is much older than the 70s. Again, Primo and Nas on his debut album. Absolutely great track, that one. Classic 90s. So that's it. End of the video. Quite a long one, this one, but I think there's been some great samples shown on this, some great pianos. There's obviously many more that could have been shown. This is just a handful of some I consider the best ones. Hope you liked the video. Drop a comment, leave a like, subscribe, download my free album, check the others I've got out, and thanks for watching.